So I wanted to look into the issue that this blue DSi XL has. The shell serial number. So let me turn it on. So what will happen is I will plug it in. No orange light. Okay, that's not atypical. However, as you'll see in the top right corner, charge light indicator is claiming, at least, that it's charging. So what I have is a little meter here. And what it will tell me is, in fact, the console is not charging, despite the indicator still going off. Not pulling any amperage. Just to confirm this, I'll have another DSi. Plug in, orange light. We get a draw. It's about 0.27 amps. So my charging wires work. But not only does the console tell me it's charging, it's not. Which I find that is a little strange. How does the console know to change that icon? And what might exactly be plaguing? I'll grab another battery just to rule that out. I can borrow the battery from this white console. I don't assume it to be the battery. That doesn't make too much sense. But same result. Nothing. And just to confirm that this battery does indeed work, yep. So I believe I've heard this problem mentioned before, but I've never seen it properly documented, or I've never really found a solution because I've never encountered a console with it. So thankfully, and now I do. So I have my greatest suspicion is the fuse right behind the charge port. It's entirely possible if that fuse is blown. Well, with the fuse being blown, it won't show a charge light and the console won't charge because there's the positive line coming out of the charger is physically broken. Why the battery charging indicator comes on, I haven't quite figured out. I'll grab my multimeter here. If this is blown, what I think I'm going to do is physically remove it so there it actually is gone from the circuit. And the fuse is testing okay. The ground pads for the charge port are ripped off. I wonder if this was one I replaced. Maybe early on. It's getting battery charge. So it wouldn't make sense for it to be the main battery connector. I don't see anything too obvious. Oh. I see. So this was the one I repaired. There was a broken line on this power board. So let me grab a new power board. It might just be my repair on this ribbon cable failed. Which, it was kind of a Hail Mary if it would work or not. It's not as though these little ribbon cables are rare. I have enough spares that I can replace them with. So the test point for the orange light, test point 11, I think it was like right third pin over, I think. Yeah, so the line to the orange light is busted again. Not getting any connection through it. I'm just going to replace this ribbon cable. Because what happened, I'm not entirely sure if it was corrosion. I didn't clean anything off, but let me grab something I can point with. It was right in here. Just something ate away at the trace, one or two traces, and just completely severed this connection with the pins. Let's see what I got. Thankfully, I have a big box of junk parts. I always keep forgetting how these go in. Leave those aside. This will at least restore the orange light, which is what I fixed before. I would plug it in and it wouldn't have an orange light. And then when I tried a different power board, the orange light came on, so... From what I remember, though, I remember it drawing amperage when it was charging. And that ribbon cable is in backwards. Okay. 50% chance of getting that right. So it's possible that my solder work was ineffective, which obviously it is. And that was it. Just that one ribbon cable. I'm gonna go grab it, actually. I kind of want to probe into it a little more. So it's just as simple as that. Let me grab my microscope so I can really look at it. I tried looking at it through an eyepiece to do this repair. Because my microscope's a little bit of a pain to set up because I put it away every time, which I probably shouldn't. Uh-oh. So here's the other side, the unmodified side, so to speak. All those pins look fine. You can kind of see the crimp, you can see the crimps in them from the connector. And then this was the side I attempted to repair. Yeah, and it looks like that line is just completely broken. Still. It was fixed, but probably once I bent it, it broke the solder. Academic curiosity, I might try and fix it again. Just to see if it's that one pin on this line that's preventing it from charging. What's interesting is it completely cut the charging circuit, like, off. It turned it off. Like, I was under the impression that was just controlling the physical, like, the orange LED turning on and off, not the actual, like, charging circuit itself. So color me a bit surprised. What I can do is actually route a little wire. Need to find my sharp X-Acto knife. And it's just kind of guessing where I'm scratching at. I don't really have good depth on a digital microscope. I think it's just like... I think I was able to tin the end of this line pretty good. Yeah, it looks like I'm getting at it pretty good. I love X-Acto knives. Ooh, that looks like it's doing pretty good. It's a little hard to tell with the like glistening of the ribbon cable, but I think that's exposing quite a bit. Get a little bit of rubbing alcohol on it. I think that's doing it. I at least didn't harm any of the traces next to it. Now let me see if I have any wire that's that thin. I might have sort of like strand wire I might be able to borrow. That looks good. Very small. I didn't really clip myself that much, but it should be good. Ooh, I had some flux on my pliers. That's nice. That was a fun thing to dip my finger into. Speaking of, I'll get my iron on. That's going to be sort of... I'm definitely not making it very easy for myself, making this wire this small. Probably do not need 300 degrees. But this is more for academic curiosity. I'd never deploy this ribbon cable in the field. Especially since a lot of these ribbon cables need to bend. If I can get it on the end like that. Should probably actually flex this up. Just grab a little bit out of my... Or I wonder if my 30 gauge wire will be good enough too. Nah, I already have this shard cut. I'll just use that. Thing's going straight in the garbage after this anyway. That should be enough. Get a touch of solder. Get a little more vertical. Need a little more solder, it would seem. I don't want to put too much on there. Yeah, so that doesn't happen. What I should have done is try and gotten solder on this small line. On the upper end of the ribbon cable before I went ahead and almost looked like I just bridged it with just solder. That's what I was trying to do originally. But I think that does it actually. I'm going to get some wick to get that extra glob out of there. This glob over here might be a little difficult. You quiet down. What happens when I cut this braid too short? It just comes apart. Okay, so now I need to break this or clip this off. Maybe I can just stress it off. Before I get too far, other than trying to get this bit of the copper braid up from where I melted my laptop stand, wouldn't be the first time. Surely won't be the last. I want to test for continuity through these pins just in case. Doesn't look like any of them are bridged, but that I didn't, or if that one looks damaged. I'll have to check if that one was damaged before I started this little venture. That might also be a problem. Or that one too. It's possible that just solder braiding is a little violent. So I want to test this outer pin. No, it's still there. Oh, I see it glistening. Fiber from the cotton swab. Alright, so that line is repaired for what it's worth. So now I want to uncover the other side of the ribbon cable and do like a full continuity test through the ribbon cable itself. It's going to be a little hard to do with. Well, let me make sure none of these were bridged. It looks like I don't see any. Oh. Mostly worried about this one, which it was going through. Okay. So I'm going to try it. Just for funsies. See what happens. Let me just make sure it's clean because I do intend on selling this console with that power board and motherboard, and I don't want to be jamming fluxed up ribbon cables in it. I need to sort of get my solder iron put away. Let it cool down. Okay, so let's swap out this ribbon cable again. So what I'm guessing what happened is when I went to go put this console back together after I thought I repaired it, which, again, I was under the assumption that all that did was control the orange light. Probably when I put it back together I was a little too rough and it popped that little very weak solder joint that I made. Okay, that's in all the way. So now, battery. Charger. Nothing, still. That's interesting. But I'm getting a draw. Huh. So there... huh. It is drawing. So it's possible that maybe one of those lines that didn't look very good, that I thought maybe were broken. I'm not going to say maybe they weren't broken, but they were weakened. I'm just kind of throwing out random theories. Or it's possible that my repair is making it so that those other ribbon cable connectors aren't making good contact in this connector, because now I have a bulge of a wire and solder. It might be keeping the other connectors from poking or making contact inside this connector. A little hard to say without doing continuity tests straight to this connector. So let me just, without the battery, it's not going to pull any, shouldn't pull any power, because it should just blink at me. I don't even get an orange light. You put pressure on it. Oh, wrong connector. Oh, I get it for a second. Yep, I touched it, and so yeah. So the little ribbon cable was shot. Just that one pin, I think, is the problem. And now that I tried repairing it, because of just how these ribbon cables go on the connector, it's possible it's bowing because of that wire and that extra solder. So it's possible that those outer connections aren't really making a good contact, or maybe my solder job already broke, so now I have to like push it down for it to make contact. Like it's broken already. So just to go back and make sure that doesn't look like my solder job broke. But I'll defer to the theory that the other pins aren't making good contact. So if this problem were to happen, theoretically speaking, to somebody, the repair would be a new power board, because a new power board would come with a ribbon cable. Trying to diagnose a break in a ribbon cable isn't too terribly difficult, because it's usually usually the break, with the exception of the top and lower screen ribbon cables, the breaks are around here. Like at the very end where the pins go in to the connector, like right at the edge where the pins aren't in the connector. It could just be from repeated flexing. I see corrosion more often than not just eat away those copper pins. So now when I plug it in, it should orange light immediately. Blinking, of course. It doesn't detect the battery. So that is interesting. So that the orange light was part of test point 11. Let me just do some more probing here, because this is kind of, I'm not going to say revolutionary, but this is all new information to me. So I understand it as test point 11, which actually, let me grab the good cable and see where test point 11 ends up at. Because test point 11 feeds the orange light. And that's what I originally looked at when I was pulling this apart, trying to figure out why the orange light wasn't turning on. So test point 11, where does that get dumped out on the board? Traces are very small. Just see if it goes to any of these like capacitors right here. Point 11. No, nothing right there. It comes out to one of these pins, this pin right here. Should then go all the way across to the back. Point 11 should be right about 1, 2, 3 over. I need a microscope to see where that goes. So it's the third pin over. Goes up. I think it goes to this pad right here. This is upside down for me. So I think it goes to right here. So test point 11. No, it doesn't. The problem is it's this third pin. So it goes up, around, and then it goes this way. Since it's under the silk screen, I can't really see it. It might go to this via right here, actually. Don't mind me, just gonna expose a little bit of copper there. So test point 11 should go to this via. Get on that copper. And then from here, who knows? Like, I don't know if this is a multi-layer board or really how the circuitry runs in this thing. There is a pinout, or there is a circuit diagram for the DSI, which might be similar enough. But I've tried tracing different without being an electrical engineer or not really understanding this stuff, sometimes I just see traces just go straight to nowhere. So let me try this, my modified ribbon again. Just see if test point 11 is still busted. Okay, have it in the same orientation too. So test point 11. So I'm getting continuity all the way through test point 11. Just kind of flex the cable a little. Okay, so my repair is good, so I wonder what the other problem is. Okay, I'm just quickly plugging it in and seeing if I get an orange light. Yep, I'm getting an orange light. If I hold it like this, the orange light's off. I don't think I can test point 11 from here. I can see if I can turn it upside down. See if I can get it to a point to where it shuts off. It's definitely flickering erratically when I'm doing this. So right there, it's not turning on anymore. So right there, I'm going to try it. And if that line is broken, then my fix wasn't very good, but, well, I would have never staked my reputation on a ribbon cable repair. It's just not worth it. I think that's making enough contact with that copper, trying to juggle a few things at once here. The connection to test point 11 is broken. Oh, there it's back again. So trying to keep steady with keeping this power board in the same spot. I'm going to plug it in and see if the orange light comes on. If it doesn't, then that could spell a different issue. Well, it's all with this ribbon cable, but it implies that it's another. It was very dim. So even though it is very dim, it is possible that it's still working. I wonder if I can get voltage instead of the direct voltage for test point 11. It's about 1 volt pulses. It's 1.6. 1.5. Huh. Interesting as now it's almost more resistant. Like I'm not even able to get it to turn off anymore. Oh, it might be possible that test point 11 is the positive end of the... Well, it is the positive end of the diode. And what's actually being cut off is the negative end of the diode. I should be able to tell this just by looking at the traces of the power board itself. So I have a good idea. Let me turn my microscope so it's not backwards to my orientation. So here's test point 11 that I've been kind of scratching at with my multimeter. And this is what I determined to be the positive end of the diode that feeds the charging lamp. It's this guy right here. Negative lamp goes into this via, which is just ground. All of it. So now it's looking for the pin that's at ground. Because I determined that test point 11 went through here. This looks like there are two grounds, it looks like. No, maybe not. This thick-ass trace right here. Oh no, that feeds this diode. That's the Wi-Fi light. I think because it blinks, maybe? So it's this... not that trace. It would be this guy right here. Looks like to be the ground. Maybe... no, that's mounting. So this end would be... that pin right there. Flip it over. Oh, and that's the pin that I suspected was broken. It all comes full circle, methinks. Let me scratch at it a little. So if I'm not going to pretend to know how diodes work. I know they only allow electricity to go in one way. But if they have no way to... or if the circuit isn't complete, even if the power is going into the diode... Let me see if I can get... might be able to bridge that with just a very small amount of solder. See if I have just enough free-flowing solder on my iron just to... Either that worked really well, or maybe it was possible that there was solder on it already. And just maybe there was a lump of solder on there that was keeping it from making a good connection inside the connector, because you can tell all these pins are soldered. That was just sort of an oopsie when I was trying to repair this ribbon cable originally. Just solder just started sticking all these pins, and you're dealing with something so small. Okay, let me try that. So if that pin's responsible for the ground connection for this entire power board, well, it's not including the ground connector for the battery, this should mean that my fix should work. Plugged back in. Good connection there. Get the little battery connector on. I'm going to actually get the battery in so I can see a draw. So it's like, I think by the end of this, I'm going to be severing lines on purpose just to see what exactly is stopping the charging circuit. Is it that positive line into the orange light? Is it the ground connection? So we still have the same problem. We have a draw, but we have no orange light. So let me try and maybe just get that wire reflowed again. Maybe a part of it isn't making a good connection. Could also be to my original theory that the solder that I'm putting on this connector is keeping other pins from making a good connection. Hard to say, it's all theory. Because aside from being silver, it looks fine. That should be good. Okay, let's try it again. Like, it doesn't really give me much resistance when I put it in. That's what she said. So it's not really giving me the idea that it's having, like, I'm not breaking the fix every single time I'm plugging it in. So let me just test for orange light. Yeah, there. It's perfectly fine. I wouldn't think there's any additional stress imposed by the shell. Yeah, there isn't. So now it's drawing. So now we've made it back to vanilla, where solid charge light amperage is being pulled from the USB cable. So now we've proven that it was either the ground pin that was severed, or that one pin that was broken originally. My solder job just wasn't that good, which I'm perfectly fine at admitting. Ribbon cable fixes are exceedingly difficult. I think I've only successfully done it once in the 5 or so times I've attempted. That was a very high risk, high reward ribbon cable fix on a new 3DS XL, because you just can't get screens for those things. Not that I would want to, because they're incredibly expensive. So now let me purposefully break that fix. Just to see what happens. Basically, if the positive line for the orange charge light is severed, I'll have to make sure it's not making a connection, or I didn't accidentally just make a bridge with solder. Or solder it onto a pin. It looks broken from here. A little hard to tell. This is where my multimeter comes in. I think I did a pretty good job scraping it back, though, as far as ribbon cables are concerned. So yeah, that line is now severed. So that is the positive line leading into the orange LED. I'll confirm that when I put this back together. So it's test point 11, and then right up here should be no connection. Oop. Nothing. So the positive lead to the orange light diode is severed. Let's see what happens when I plug in the battery and the charging cable. So I had to cut my mic audio from this point, but basically what I did is I continued severing different lines on that ribbon cable to see exactly what was causing the draw to either occur or not occur, for lack of a better term. I knew what line controlled the orange light, and that seemed to be irrelevant to the actual charging of the console. You can basically disable the orange light, and that has no real impact on what the charging circuit actually does, whether or not the console actually draws power. What I ended up finding out is there was a trace line that led through a 10K resistor that goes to ground on the power board, and severing that line, which I believe was the 4th pin over on the ribbon cable, caused the console to no longer draw power. Why exactly that is, I'm not entirely sure, but looking at a board schematic that was drafted up by a user on GBA temp, the godsend is what it is it leads all the way back to component U11, which is one of the main charging ICs. From what AI was able to tell me, it was some type of thermistor, I think that's what it was called, or a voltage divider. And from what I was able to dig up, of course, kind of taking the information that AI spits out with a grain of salt, it's saying it's an alternate ground, and if that line is severed, the component U11 doesn't have a complete circuit, so it's unable to complete a charge. that does line up with my testing, at least severing that line. So, interesting bit. So if you do not have an orange light and your console isn't drawing power, but the fuses are okay, and the battery is also presumed to be okay, it could simply be that the traces on that ribbon cable were severed, be it through corrosion, through mechanical stress of bending, which I think what happened to mine. I'm not entirely sure what would cause a single middle trace on that ribbon cable to fail. It probably was corrosion. This was a little while ago that I tried fixing that, so, and obviously, yeah, it was not a good fix. Probably shouldn't have attempted it and stuck it into a console, but I figured if it only controlled the orange light, it would be irrelevant. So, interesting piece of information. I'll definitely put that in my notes for the future. And now it's just me going through and figuring that out, more or less.